When I walk around Rockefeller Center, I'm amazed that private people could have created it. What an amazing accomplishment, and in some ways a gift to the city that it's still there. That speaks to private development, it speaks to philanthropy, it speaks to preservation. We're all lucky to have it.
Once you know him, extremely friendly, extremely engaging.
He kind of cuts through, I don't know how to say it, I would say he's kind of got a stony exterior.
He does have a sense of humor.
He's actually really funny.
He's really goofy.
He's a terrible dancer.
He's that rare combination of a trustworthy person, bright, articulate. He probably would hate me saying that right now.
You want the truth? You want to hear it straight? Talk to Dan.
Dan is one of those scary, smart guys who, as you're saying something, he not only gets it, but either improves your idea or questions your thesis before you finish the sentence.
Real estate's complicated. You have to be willing to zig and zag. Dan was brought up by a dad who was in the real estate business. If nothing else, he got it by osmosis.
I remember we were on a vacation or driving somewhere and we'd veer off and go look at properties. They would always tell us to do whatever we were passionate about or whatever made us happy. But once I went to business school, I knew that I'd want to try to be in real estate. Citibank offered me a job in real estate banking and I accepted it. I had interviewed at Goldman when I was at Stanford and interviewed with Goldman again after Citibank. And then I went and worked for my father for 2 years. Then a friend of mine said, come and speak to us at Goldman Sachs again. And this time, during the interview, they made me an offer, I don't know, maybe an hour later or 5 minutes later, I accepted.
Dan was a brilliant guy. He had real intellectual horsepower.
He's a person who sees the globe rather than looking at the globe and thinking the world is flat.
Dan is very well suited for real estate because of his ability to create and nurture relationships. I don't really know what his IQ is, but I'm going to bet it's very high. As importantly in this business is having a high EQ.
Daniel was always able to identify value and work through the necessary ingredients to allow the firm to have a significant role in the real estate markets across the globe, actually.
I had, in my mind, 2 very successful careers within Goldman. One, building a real estate investment banking business. I moved over into Whitehall.
I had actually returned from business school right before we set up the Whitehall funds. In my opinion, Dan's greatest accomplishments were associated with things that we did in the 1990 to 2004 era. Under his leadership, we created a lot of, at the time, what were considered to be, the most innovative and largest and most complicated transactions in the real estate space. We bought Westin hotels. We established a formidable, if not the most prolific, non-performing loan platform in the world. And we really pioneered under Dan's leadership what is now a household term, which is the real estate private equity business.
Whitehall funds were a tremendous part of Goldman's success in the late 80s, early 90s.
I had to write the numbers down because I couldn't remember if it was 6 million, 6 billion. I mean, it was so over the top.
Dan was clearly the leader, the creator, the visionary.
In a short time, it became the largest privately held real estate opportunity fund in the world.
And we did some pretty terrific transactions. I think we're actually sitting in one of those places right now, Rockefeller Center.
Dan was instrumental in making that deal from Goldman's point of view.
The Rock Center deal was sort of an extraordinary deal and with lots of complexity and lots of issues and lots of challenges. And then at the end, it worked out really well.
What I liked about Dan was that he was very straightforward. He was very clear in what he wanted to accomplish. Dan's creativity combined with his intelligence is what makes him one of the greats in the industry.
And I think that my dad has a really strong character. I don't think it was about the money so much as it was more about winning and losing. Anybody who's golfed with him specifically knows that he's incredibly competitive with himself.
Dan could buy houses with the golf lessons he's had. He's playing well, he's very fun to be around. If he's not playing well, he's not so fun to be around.
He's just that A student. He's going to get that A.
He definitely seems to intimidate people on first meeting. He had a very famous handshake move, which is he would sort of shake your hand and walk away from you at the same time.
He comes across a little intense, and sometimes people misunderstand him. I think he's actually a lot of fun. And particularly he's got Brooke, because Brooke is somebody who really softens Dan and really is fun. I think Brooke is one of the keys to Dan's success.
Sometimes you get lucky in life. We've been married for 36 years now.
We met on a blind date. It wasn't a date I wanted to go on. I opened the door and thought, I should have washed my hair. I just thought he was cute. It was chemistry.
She challenges Dan. She expands Dan's horizons.
They really balance each other out. They're kind of the perfect couple.
At Goldman Sachs, they used to call her the talent. People love being with her.
Because of the way he worked, we were on the telephone much more than we were together. And Daniel said, we're just going to get through this. And he always said we. Everything was we. I don't even think I thought about it until later in a conversation. Then I thought, we.
Keeping up with her has been a terrific experience. She has great passion for her causes. She's been as instrumental as anyone in building the Whitney Museum downtown and created the Child Mind Institute. I used to say that before I met Brooke, I had uncashed paychecks on my kitchen table and I felt really rich. We don't have uncashed paychecks anymore.
Brooke is on the board of Lincoln Center Theater, my theater. I can't tell you how many audiences I sit in. It's always like, oh, the husband doesn't really want to go to the play, but the husband, I mean, I know this is cliche thinking, but I'm afraid it still goes on. Dan loves the theater. He loves going to see plays. He takes theater very seriously, and they go all the time, Brooke and Dan.
Long after the business career fades in people's minds, the things that these two have done to help other people will live and reverberate in the future.
He seems to be one of these guys who's able to balance all the other things. He's devoted to his family, to his kids.
The kids I've known since they were babies. I remember when he and Brooke first bought the East Hampton house, and we were at a conference in Connecticut, and he invited me to fly back to see it. And baby Mallory, she must have been 2, ran into his arms, and I never expected Dan to goo-goo gaga. Beneath that consummate professional exterior was a mushy guy who loved his family.
The children just adore him, and I think they all get him and they all respect him, and they're so different. Stephen was a visual arts major. I mean, he just loves Dan. Mallory's super thoughtful.
I think that for a lot of people, he's this really serious and intimidating character, but for us, it was never like that. He's really loosened up over the last 15 years. You normally want to get like a tequila in him, but then he's incredibly funny, and he's got this dry, deadpan humor.
It comes in this very quiet, witty way. Sometimes it takes people a couple beats to understand, particularly me, the joke that he made.
For us, our dad is a lot of times like the funniest guy in the room.
We have great homes and a great family, and that's just because of our marriage and really Brooke.
I feel really lucky, and as we grow older, I feel even more lucky.
When he retired from Goldman, people would ask me, what's your dad going to do now? And I would tell him he's just going to sit on the couch and eat potato chips, which was like the biggest joke of all time.
I thought that to have my own business would be something I'd want to try.
I've been doing it for 10 years. I actually met Dan through a headhunter. The headhunter called and asked me about another position. I wasn't interested in another position at all, and in some ways, almost as an afterthought, I said, would you ever want to have lunch with Dan Neidich? And I said, now that I'll do. A lot of people I respect thought that Dan was one of the smartest investors in real estate, but I also heard he was a good guy.
So we met, and I don't know if she saw it the same way I did, but I thought it was pretty obvious that she should come work with us.
Hearing Dan articulate things about our business and the investment environment was really eye-opening for me. I thought, okay, I think this is going to work.
It's a business that as long as we think we can make decent returns, we're allowed to pretty much buy anything we want. We've done a number of transactions. The Standard Hotel we built on the High Line before the High Line was the High Line.
Dan had the vision to back Andre Ballage's vision, and they built this thing technically in the middle of nowhere. It was a little build it and they will come, and they came.
Probably the 56 Leonard condominium is as interesting and as challenging and as rewarding as anything I've done.
From an architectural perspective, it's quite extraordinary.
This was a transaction that we started before the financial crisis. We owned it through the financial crisis, and then we built it after the financial crisis.
There are not many good stories that came out of development deals that were committed to prior to the crisis.
Sometimes I call it a 7-year overnight success.
In a lot of ways, Dune is a boutique, and people often tell us that we walk with a much bigger footprint than that boutique suggests because of who we are as individuals.
You're trying to find people that other people want to do business with. I think we look for people who can interact with people and will relate to people.
He's an incredible relationship person. He has, I think, a passion for creativity and vision.
Yes, it's about making money, but we represent pension funds, endowments, foundations. The most important thing for us is that we help them be successful.
Now, when you know someone for 35 years, you have lots of stories, but the thing I would just say, it's been my honor to be his friend.
Honesty and integrity are really essential to success. I am proud of what he's done. I'm really proud of what he's done, but I'm more proud of who he is.